I'm not going to be the same person that I was before reading that book. Somebody's playing chess in that book and I want it. I was not prepared for him to be her uncle. She finds herself in a bejeweled thong. Hi, welcome back. It has been a minute. I had a very busy and stressful month. I was on the verge of crying every day. And then The Sun came out. I, however, spend all my time reading books. I have a reading vlog surrounding dark academia coming up. But in the spirit of it being fall, I have some books that I want to read and some books that I've already read. So I want to split this video in two. The first part is going to be kind of like inspiration. All the books that I want to read this fall, even though it is nearly halfway through. And the next part is going to be another kind of inspiration with all the books that I've already read that are very fall-esque. Fall-esque? How do you say it? Autumny? We'll start with some physical books that I already own that I really want to read this fall. First one is going to be, I know you're going to gasp when you see this title. I'm so jelly. So Brat Summer passed, but I'm still in Brat Autumn, I feel like. This is Brat, a ghost story by Gabriel Smith. This is kind of autofiction in the same way that Brat Easton-Ellis does, because the protagonist is called Gabriel. And the blurb on the cover that really resonated with me was, messy with glitched realities and body horror, Brat is the most brain-melting debut I've read in ages. This was a gift from my lovely boyfriend, and the back says, Gabriel's skin is falling off. His dad is dead. He owes his editor a novel. His girlfriend won't answer his call. Parental manuscripts appear to change each time he reads them. A bizarre home video hints at a long-buried secret, and there's a hideous man in the garden. I think this is like the perfect atmospheric book, and I like horror books. I don't really like gory horror books, so I think this is going to be more like brain-melting spooky stuff, and it's going to be perfect. And then something more for the witches. For the witches in my life. I bought the stunning Italian edition of Half a Soul. So this is the standard edition. You only can find this one. And it was kind of expensive because it was sponsored by a TikToker. Yeah, Italy is doing, like my home country is doing some weird stuff, but I've read some very wonderful things about this, especially that is kind of Bridgerton meets House Moving Castle. I'm only interested in House Moving Castle. But also the story feels kind of potentially very good. The protagonist was cursed by a fae and now she has only a half of her soul, so she has to, I think, infiltrate fae society. Her name is Theodora Ettings. She gets thrust into the ballrooms and riches world by Lord Elias Wilder, the Lord Sorcerer of England. And so I am very happy to have reached this copy and have it in my hands, and I cannot wait to start it. Then, obviously, I need to finish Stars of Chaos. Now this, as you know, a May, so queer story, queer love story between two men, but set in ancient China. And this is a steampunk novel, so they have armors and stuff, but all powered by fuels, not electricity. But they're still in ancient China and they have robots, it's a very peculiar setting. And it's very heavy on the political turmoil in the court. And the protagonist discovered that he's actually part of the royal family, not really, kind of like one of the princes. And he's guardian or godfather, not the godfather that we think in the Western world, but like ancient Chinese kind of godfather. The protagonist discovers that he's not just like a good for nothing, he's a martial general. I'm on volume 2. I really want to finish this, but the problem is that I don't have volume 3 and they're very expensive. So I am going slower than I would normally do because I don't want to finish it actually. And now for the books that I don't currently have, but I will buy soon. A book that I currently have in ebook form is An Academy of Liars. I am reading that for the video that is going to come out, and it's a kind of dark academia in which the premise is very weird for a dark academia. So the protagonist is a, I think, young woman who gets do that put the author or like her fiance gets caught cheating, I think, on the day of the wedding, and she's so heartbroken and so frustrated, and she gets a mysterious message saying you've got accepted into the Academy for Liars. No, it has a name, but I'm calling it an Academy for Liars because I don't know the name, in which she has to learn the magic system, which is persuasion. So you can infiltrate the mind of people to make them do stuff, but also make matter do stuff, and time and water and the elements if you're powerful enough. So I think that concept sounds amazing. I cannot speak for the writing because I haven't started it yet, but I have really high hopes. And another Dark Academia book, I don't know if I'm going to get to it into that video, but it has been talked about a lot in the good sense and the bad sense. It's an Immortal Dark by Tagis Girma. This is about vampires. The protagonist discovers that she is the heir to one of the lost families. I don't remember if she is the heir of a vampire family or like kind of like the offerings, the ones that get bitten by the vampires, and she has to infiltrate that society by getting into university. Everybody told me that this was really good, and then the ending is either you love it or hate it because it's such a fucking mess, like the chaos unmatched. So I'm actually very curious. I could read that after an Academy of Liars. I could. Two of my most anticipated books are coming out this month. One has already come out, the other one is not. The first one, who has already come out, is The Brightness Between Us by Ailey Schrifer. The Darkness Outside Us, one of my favorite books of I think 2 years ago, and one of my favorite books of all time. The sci-fi book set in space in which two young men from rival countries, they're going on a rescue mission in this AI-powered spaceship on another planet because somebody is stranded there. They don't actually remember getting onto the ship, and they don't know why the AI is such an asshole. It's actively working against them, and it's a wonderful story about what humanity is, survivalism, and also a queer story, obviously. Beautiful. And the sequel, everybody told me that it's so good. I'm not going to be the same person that I was before reading that book. And the other one is Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer. I'm a huge Jeff Vandermeer fan. I read all of his books, and this is the fourth book in the Area X or like Southern Reach trilogy that now is not a trilogy anymore. So this is going to be 3 numerous missions in the Area X. The first one that ever got like approval, and other 2 that I don't know what they're about, but I am so pumped. That man writes eco-fiction, like eco thrillers and sci-fi like no other. I love those books, even though not all of the questions get answered. I think they're beautiful. I think they're so cool. And then a book that everybody's talking about. I want to read Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. If you didn't know, yes, it is pronounced intermezzo. It's an Italian word, and I am Italian. The thing that you have to know about me is that I love books about chess, okay? Am I good at chess? Not really. Do I love the game? Yes. Do I love books about the game? Yes. Now, Intermezzo, apparently it's not really about chess, but somebody's playing chess in that book and I want it. My boyfriend already read it and he told me that it's okay, which is how I thought of normal people. It was okay. The ending was abysmal, and I really did not like Conversation with Friends, and I did not read Beautiful World, Where Are You, because it did not stick with me. I want to read it. Everybody's reading it besides me, everybody and their mothers, and I want to read it, so I will. And the last book that I don't know if I'm going to get it. It has been translated into Italian this week. It's A Dark and Running Tide. I believe this is a Dark Academia and it's Sapphic. If it's not Sapphic, I'm going to Revolt. It's by Alison Soft. I think I read A Far Wilder Magic by her earlier this month or last month, and I really liked it. The atmosphere was beautiful. Her writing style very complex and beautiful and flowery in not a dense and heavy way, but the love story was very cliche and dragged the story a bit. So I hope that this is going to be better, that she matured as a writer, and that I'm going to give it 5 stars. Yay! Now for the books that I've already read. I haven't done a wrap-up in a while, in which I mean I need to do a wrap-up for September and this part of October. But I read very autumnal books, so these are the books that I actually kind of recommend for this season. I have a whole video in which I recommend fall books, so if you want to, it's going to be linked up here or down there. I started September because it was still very sunny with a webtoon. It's called Hey Snowy in Class 2. Now, if you're feeling like the seasonal depression and the fall blues, this webtoon, cute, queer, rotting, cute, queer romance about 2 guys who are 2 idiots and they fall in love and they're both in class 2. Now the first season, which are the first 2 volumes, 10 out of 10. The second 2 volumes, so the second season, follows another couple which I think wasn't developed enough. So I give it, I think, 4 stars instead of 5. And then I read Sorcerer Thorns. I read both Sorcerer Thorns and the novella Mystery of Thorn Manor. Now, Sorcerer Thorns, very good. Very autumnal book. If you love witches and you love wizards and books about books, because this talks about like libraries and grimoires, this is going to be the book for you. I found the protagonist to be a bit cliche, like the standard, I'm kind of not like other girls, but her character, her personality was very endearing, but the way that some things were said about her were very cliche, but I really kind of liked how she behaved. I also liked the story, how the pacing I think was perfect for a book. It could have been dragged into 3 or 4 books and she like compacted it into one very tight book. And I actually was in love with one of the side characters, like the demon. If you know, you know. So I gave Sorcerer Thorns 4 stars. I unfortunately gave the novella Mystery of Thorn Manor 3 stars. It was 100 pages and this was not tight at all. The stakes were not high enough for it to be 100 pages. If it had been like 30 or 40 pages, yeah, sure, cute and fun and short, but it was too long. Ladies and gentlemen, I read the worst book of all time. If you dare me to do something, I am going to do it. If you're like, haha, I bet you won't, I will. So I read Ghost Stick, Port Canyon Chronicle. I thought, because my friend told me, this was just kind of like a monster romance between a girl and a ghost, and it was going to be very taboo and very dark romance, but I was not prepared for him to be her uncle. And to be fair, the author says it in the beginning, and she lists a bunch of the trigger warnings, and then the in-depth list is on her website. But I think this is the worst thing that I've ever read because the writing is incredibly bad. Pacing, bad. It's 150 pages and I took 2 weeks out of my life to read it because it was so bad. So bad. She wanted to create a gothic atmosphere and then the protagonist at the end, she finds herself in a bejeweled thong. Her best friend also finds herself saying some of the most random stuff, kind of like when in the middle of the book she says to the protagonist, oh yeah, my mother cannot become a ghost because we have her embalmed corpse rotting in our basement. It has been there for a year. Also the fact that the uncle ghost multiple times and he has no redeeming qualities. He also assaults her in his sleep. Protagonist's dad comes back in ghost form and it's okay with their relationship. She also gets pregnant from a ghost. Yeah, 0 star minus 100 star. This was an indie book, so I'm not going to complain too much about the writing, but it was abysmal. Yeah. And then I read a wonderful Italian book, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it because you can't actually get it into another language. Red City by Avi Radley. The title translates to Thirst. And this is a sci-fi story that it's split in half. It's both a space opera and a on-planet discussion about religious diaspora, and it was so good. It touches upon racism, speciesism, the discrimination of Romani people, and the religious conflict between Arabs and Jews. And it was so topical and so well constructed, the way that it deals with these themes. There's also a giant alien immortal being orbiting the planet, and it's queer. So I give it 5 stars. It was more of like a 4.75 because it lulled a little bit in the middle, but I really liked it. And then you know what I did? I reread the whole Hunger Games trilogy. The audiobooks in Italian came out and I was like, I really should reread it because I was rewatching the movies with my friends. I was not obsessed with the Hunger Games as a kid. I don't know why. I don't think I was in the mood. I was more into a fantasy mood when I was a kid. And rereading the books, the first one is definitely my favorite, and then the second and then the third. I really liked the parts where Katniss is in the Hunger Games alone. Those were my favorite parts. I hated those parts as a kid. I was like, I want Peeta, I want them together. And I actually did not remember how brutal the books were as a kid. Like the movies are kind of softer, even though the physical image is very hard to watch. They are definitely more brutal with the way that they punish both Katniss and Peeta and the people. So now I have to reread The Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes because I tried to read that and then abandoned it, and then I never went back to it again. So I gave the first book, I think, 4.5, the second book 4.25, and the third 4 stars. Yeah. This is for the videos. I'm going to be very brief about it. These Violent Slides. Not by Chloe Gong, by Mika Namarever. Loosely based around a similar case from the 20s. Now we are in the 70s in Pittsburgh, and it's about 2 queer kids. One is Jewish, the other one is very rich. That meet at college. They're both like early admissions, so they're very young. They're very depressed. Like they need a therapist so much. And they have a friendship that starts out not really as a friendship and it spirals really quickly. Now, I gave it 3.5. I'm going to get into the reasons in that video, but safe to say, I think the pacing was not good, especially in the middle, and it was too long. Writing, very good, very flowery, very dense, but I liked it. Too long, way too long, 150 pages too long. So these are all the books that I read, very autumnal, may I say, and all the books that I want to read. So this is a wrap-up in TBR, all in ones, like the fallest of the fall. Next video is going to be a reading vlog, so I hope you like it, and I'll see you in the next time. Goodbye. Oh, wait, I have the socials, they're down below, so now, bye. Mwah.